First of all, I have to say that it's a great pleasure for me to be here this evening, to spend some time with you. And I do thank the Hanhola and begin with Gwed Chsania. Thank you for asking me, because it's a great pleasure for me, and a great honor for me, and a great zechus for me to share some of the inyanim that I heard, I participated in. I was there to share with others and give over some of the great good feelings and strong feelings and different feelings that we have being close to a tzaddik, to tzaddikas, as I've had the zechus to have over many, many years. My good friend, Rabbi Manas Friedman, began by saying, and I want you to know I've been sitting here the whole time, and I listened to everybody very, very carefully. And my good friend, Rabbi Manas Friedman mentioned, he said, I wish I could be last. And I think to myself, I wish I could be first, as he was. Why would I want to be first? Because I'm sitting here the whole time listening to beautiful teachings and beautiful lessons. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, I hope I'll be able to reach that level and give over also some inspiration and some teaching, something that I have learned. And certainly everything I've heard will strengthen me to give over in honor that I've heard. What I want to do today is I happen to have been there on the very day, Shabbos Kodesh, and it was Vov Tishrei Zoom Farbrengen. I was in 770 and at the hospital pretty much the whole day until at night. But before I tell you, I want to tell you a little story. When I say I want to tell you a little story, you think to yourself, well, that means it's going to take up a little time. It's not a big story, not an important story. But when I say in a little story, I mean, yes, it's the only little in this story is in terms of the time. I believe that this story is a very strong story, very powerful story, and I think you'll feel that way also. I heard a story, and I don't know the details, and I don't know exactly what the words were between the person and the Rebbe. But I heard a story that a woman went to the Rebbe, and she was holding in her arms a baby boy. And she came to the Rebbe, and she said to the Rebbe, Rebbe, I want you to give a bracha to my baby son that he should be like you. And the Rebbe responded, if you will be a mother to your child, as my mother was a mother to me, then it could happen. I don't know if these are the right words, but I think you understand the point. I don't know exactly how the Rebbe worded it, but the Rebbe made it very clear, and that's all I heard of the story. I didn't hear of anything that he continued, but very, very clearly and very definitely, the Rebbe was ascribing all of his greatness, which of course the Rebbe didn't consider himself to be great, but of all good characteristics that he had, and all the mazia, everything he was, as people recognized him, whatever he had came from his mother. And there's certainly a very beautiful lesson to learn from this. And I want to talk about this, maybe I'll go into it again when I finish telling you what I remember from the day of Vov Tishrei Zoom Farbrengen. Well, if I was writing a book, if I was writing the story, I would say Shabbos morning, Vov Tishrei Zoom Farbrengen started out as every other Shabbos, but was quick to change. I came into 770, Shabbos Kodesh, there was a big olam there, a big crowd there. Crowd had come obviously for Tishrei, many people there. Now at that time, the Rebbe was not on a beam, was not on a stage, he was not on a platform. The Rebbe's chair was on the floor. And I stood actually right behind the Rebbe, and over Rosh Hashanah and Kippur also. So right behind the Rebbe. And what I do remember is, now I'm going to tell you what I remember. Now, I want you to know that from that day, which is 57 years ago, until today, first of all, I never took notes. Generally speaking, I never took notes of anything that happens. I don't have notes, but I retained it hopefully in my mind. And I can tell you what I verified at that time. Some things which I mentioned, I didn't actually see, but I asked at that time. And actually, in the recent past, the very recent past, I've asked people about, did this happen, did that happen? And I hear their different versions. So what I want you to know is, what I'm telling you is that I'm not saying this, that you should write this down as a diary and say that, oh, Rabbi Zeilingold said this and this and this and this and this. I'm telling you that this is, as I know what happens, I remember what happened. I could be wrong in details. I could be wrong in more than details, but whatever it is, I want to bring out the points of what happened, and the exactly if it happened like this or that is obviously very, very important for historical reasons, but I'm here for, I would say, for reasons of, has been mentioned over and over again, that's the point I want, that's the points I want to bring out. I do remember in Shachris, in the middle of Shachris, sometime in the middle of Shachris, that the doctor, I went over to the Rebbe and spoke to him, I think for a few minutes. And obviously I couldn't hear what Dr. Seligson was saying to the Rebbe, but I did ask afterwards, and it was generally believed that he had told the Rebbe that his mother had fallen out of bed. That is what I heard, that's what I remembered. Now, how difficult was that? We didn't know, nobody knew. But after davening, the question is it going to be, is Rebbe going to go to the Rebbe, to his mother's house? Is it going to be a Farbrengen? Yes, there was a Farbrengen, as I'm sure you are all aware. There was a Farbrengen. And Rebbe Farbrengen, it was Shabbos Kodesh, it was Shabbos of the Shabbos Shuvah, a special Shabbos. And the Rebbe did not make Kiddush at the did not make Kiddush at the Farbrengen. And as I'm sure you all know, the Rebbe did not make Kiddush that entire day. He actually fasted the entire day. I'll come to that. And we thought it was not in those times, the Rebbe, generally speaking, did not make Kiddush. And Shabbos of Vechom didn't make Kiddush. But there were, of course, many Shabbosim when he did make Kiddush. And I don't remember anybody being very surprised, oh, he's not making it. He didn't make Kiddush. And I do remember that as the Farbrengen proceeded, as it continued, Dr. Seligson went over to the Rebbe and spoke to him. And obviously I didn't hear it, but people were saying, oh, this is what the Rebbe said to Dr. Seligson, this is what Dr. Seligson said to the Rebbe. And said, oh, he just told the Rebbe, well, what's the situation with his mother? And I certainly don't know what it was, and I really had no interest in knowing what the situation was. But the Rebbe did tell Dr. Seligson, as far as I remember, or as I was told over there, the Rebbe told him to say l'chaim, that he, Dr. Seligson, should say l'chaim for his mother, for the Rebbe's mother. And Dr. Seligson replied to the Rebbe and said that he knows the name is Hannah, but he does not know Bas, her mother's name. And the Rebbe said, and I think that I remember, and I might be wrong, that the Rebbe smiled when he said the name. Bas, his mother's name is Bas Rachel. The Rebbe's Baba, his mother's mother, name is Rachel. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to take out 1 minute now to go to another subject which is directly connected to this. The Rebbe's Baba, her name was Rachel, she had one name, Rachel. She was passed on, she was nifta in 1948, Tovshin Ches, she was nifta. And at that time, within maybe a day, I don't know, a day or so, my mother-in-law, Rebbetzin Herch Rivka Herch, the wife of the Rebbetzin of my Shver, Moshe Yitzchak, Chassid, she gave birth to a daughter, and Solange Gute Yoram. And it was, I think, this was Toshin Ches, 2 years before Toshin Yud, and the Rebbe was not yet known as a Rebbe. And it was that day when the Rebbe called up my father-in-law. Obviously, they had a good relationship. And the Rebbe told my father-in-law my father-in-law, he said, I know that your wife has given birth to a daughter. I'm going to ask you a personal favor, and I'm going to ask you, he told my father-in-law that his mother's mother, had been niftara, and he doesn't have anyone who could give the name, to take that name. I'm asking you a favor, could you please give your daughter the name of my grandmother? And so, of course, my father-in-law agreed, and my sister-in-law, she should live and be well, is Mrs. Rachel Mathless. And I want to mention this as a sechus for her, and mention that Rebbe Shalom should notice the sechus that she has to carry the name of the Rebbe's grandmother by the asking of the Rebbe, and should give her what she needs, and give for the very best, but everything that she has to have, b'tov nigla. And I want to add also that it so happens, if you're interested, in the Rebbe did send a letter to my father-in-law, thanking him. It's a beautiful letter. It's fitted in the Igreis. And we should all have a good inyanim to tell, and should be fertig inyanim. Let's get back to the Kiddush, to the Farbrengen. At the Farbrengen, I will tell you, and I'm trying to give over the feeling that was going on there. And the only word that comes to my mind, the English word that comes to my mind, is it was tense. It was a tense feeling. Nobody could really put their finger on exactly what it was. Heard the Rebbe fall out of bed, and was it serious? Is it not serious? And nobody was there to answer, to say, and how's the Rebbe taking this? But the Rebbe was Farbrengen, and the Farbrengen was a short Farbrengen. Now I'm going to tell you something which is very, very interesting. And I don't know how many people are aware of this, but at that Farbrengen, on Hashvi'i, at Vov Tishrei, in the middle of the Farbrengen, suddenly the place became full of police. Policemen came in. I'm saying that full of it. I don't know if it was full of it. A lot of policemen came in. I remember that. A lot of police. And people said, why are they coming in? Why are they coming in? What does it have to do with the Rebbe? What does it have to do? Why is it coming in? What's happening? Nobody knew. Actually, I found out very, very soon why the police came in at that time. And there was a very good reason for it. My good friend, she live and be well, Rabbi Shmulu, the Rebbe wanted very much to send him to a very far away place. And I don't really want to get into where he went and how he went and what happened, because that's for him to tell you. But there was a plan for him to go away to a place which is very, very far away. And I'm sure you know where it is or what it is. But the point was that this place was a military place, and you had to have special permission. What do I mean when I say you had to have special permission? In order to come there, for a visitor, anyone to enter that place who was not part of the military had to get permission from the President of the United States. The President of the United States had to sign a paper allowing that person to come into that particular place. And I happen to have found out that the Rebbe we had to find somebody who could get to the President of the United States, who was President Johnson, to get permission for Rabbi Lou, for Shmuel Lou, to go to that particular place. And there was a difficulty doing it, but it so happens that I do happen to know who was able to do it. There was one person able to reach the president, reach somebody close to the president, get to him, but that's not the story I'm telling now. I want to tell the story of what happened at the Farbrengen. And what happened was that the President of the United States did sign the paper that Rabbi Shmulu, being the representative of the Lubavitch movement, would go in this obviously to be there for Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur that year was Tuesday night and Wednesday. And they signed the paper and given permission. They did that Wednesday morning. Excuse me, I'm sorry. He did that on Saturday morning, Shabbos morning. He signed that paper in Washington. And the president of the United States said immediately, you've got to get this over to 770 Simpake. And the person to see there is Rabbi Yehuda Krinsky. and you've got to let him know what happened. And you got to have him, he's got to get this paper because he has to go tonight. Actually, he went Sunday morning. He did not go Saturday and didn't go Mason Shabbos. He left early Sunday morning. That's why he had to have that paper. Now, what happened was that as soon as the aides of the president got the notice, they immediately called 770, the office. Now, of course, the office of 770 was closed. It was Shabbos. And there was no way they could reach them. Now, they had an order from the President of the United States. You have to get, this has to get to Rabbi Krinsky, and he has to get this permission from the President of the United States. So what they did was in Washington, they called the 71st precinct, which is, I believe, in New York Avenue and Empire Boulevard, and they told them that you've got to get to 770 Eastern Parkway, and you've got to get this in the hands of Rabbi Yehuda Krinsky. Now, obviously, the police, they get an order from the President of the United States, they run to do it, so they don't send out one person or one car, they send a whole group of cars. Anyways, that is the story. And this story is not directly related to the story of what happened on Vov Tishrei, but I would also tell you, it so happens that the President had given permission, and of course, as we know, that year Yom Kippur was on Wednesday, Tuesday night on Wednesday, and the Rebbe very much wanted to thank the President of the United States, sending him a letter. Now, the next day was Thursday, Friday for the Shabbos, and Yom Tov was, I believe, Sunday night for Monday. Yom Tov was Sunday night to Monday. The first day of Sukkot was Monday. And the Rebbe wanted to get a letter to the President of the United States. And so, from what I understand, that Nissim Mendel was called in on Thursday, which was the day after Yom Kippur, to take dictation from the Rebbe. The Rebbe dictated the letter. And of course, he couldn't have it ready immediately. He had it ready Sunday morning. Sunday morning was Erev Sukkot, and the Rebbe went to the Oyel. And I do know for sure that Nissim Mendel went to the Oyel, and the Rebbe signed the letter to the president at the Oyel. Maybe there were other letters there also, I don't know. I'm just telling you this as a little aside. That is something that happened that may or may not be important to you, or it's interesting to note anyways. There's lots more to the story, but it's not for now. Let's continue with Vov Tishrei. The Farbrengen finished, and actually, if I remember correctly, Yokan sat down and was doing the Chazorah, and people left, and they left. And then in a little while, we found out what's happening, that there's an ambulance, exactly what is happening, and exactly who was there. The Rebbe was in the ambulance, and the Rebbe wanted to get into the ambulance. The Rebbe motioned to him that he should not come in. That's what I heard. I wasn't standing exactly there. And the Rebbe did go in, and others were there. And then, of course, the big story there was, and the very, very difficult this story was, that the driver of the ambulance says, I'm not moving from here until I get paid. And obviously, nobody had money. It was Shabbos. And they were crying and begging. How long that went on exactly, I don't know. But he feared he's not going to. So they, what happened was that they did gain access into the store that was mentioned before across the street, the Raskin's, the fruit store. And exactly how they got in, I heard different stories, but they were in the store. And I suppose he was there also, Mr. Raskin, and they got the money from their rest, and they paid and moved on. And this, my friends, this was the birthday of Hatzalah movement in Crown Heights. Because after that, Bistritsky, I should say, the one who did the work was Zarav Sholem, and did the work to create the Hatzalah in Crown Heights. And it was difficult to believe that they wouldn't take her, but that what happened, that is what happened. So then we ran down to the hospital. And I'm trying to think back, and I've told you and I've said to you that from that day, I didn't go with anybody, anything. I'm thinking to myself, exactly where did we run to? I don't know. And I didn't even check up on anybody. I think we went down to the other side, running down, I think it was Franklin Avenue or Rogers Avenue. Franklin goes into Franklin Avenue, and Bedford. It was in Bedford-Stuyvesant, And I remember coming, I went down with my good friend Shmulu, and we were running. I think I'm saying it took 20 minutes, half hour. I don't think it took more than that. And we came to the hospital. We came to the hospital. As we came to the hospital was on our right. Then there was a building on the left, and there was a bridge between the building and the hospital. A building and the hospital. And I remember very clearly, and I did speak to Shmuel just to check up on this, and he remembers also very clearly that Rebbe Gona was running across this bridge, running into the building, the hospital building, and the room where the Rebbe's was, I do believe, was 9 flights up, and he had to run down 9 flights and run up 9 flights, and he was running, and I remember he called down to us. He saw me and Shmuel. Obviously, it was an open bridge between the building across and the hospital. And he shouted down to us, so we understood what happened. We went up. Now, at that point, the Rebbe was in the room of his mother. She was there, obviously covered, obviously, of course. And the Rebbe, it became known immediately that I was not there, but the Rebbe had refused to make Kiddush. And he had been asked, and for what I remember, and I don't think I should go into the details of what I remember, because obviously I've heard other words or other thoughts or other statements about what happened. And I don't think there's any point in my personally verifying them because I don't need them. But I do know for sure that Rabbi Goren had a discussion with the Rebbe, saying to the Rebbe, I do believe that he has to make Kiddush. And the Rebbe wanted to know what the Alter Rebbe says. Now, I had heard the Rebbe said that he wants to see the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, wants to see the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, but whatever it was, the Rebbe was assured that Alter Rebbe, according to Alter Rebbe, he has to make Kiddush, and he listened to a few people. He asked one person, he wrote Rov, etc., but he declined and he did not make Kiddush. That is the fact. The fact is he did not make Kiddush. Now the Rebbe, this is the room where the Rebbetzin. Now I also understood at that time that the Rebbe was not allowed in. He came in the ambulance. He was not allowed in the room. Where it happened, where it happened, and when they came out to tell him, this is what I heard, and they told the Rebbe wording that he could understand that it was all over. But the Rebbe, it seems that the Rebbe insisted, and he didn't catch what they were saying. Say, well, why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? When I came into the room, the Rebbe's Chana was in the situation, and we were allowed into the room. Now the Rebbe was standing facing the window, and I do believe, if I remember correctly, the window had bars on it. It was just staring out, nothing else. And he had his arms on the windowsill, was just staring out. And I don't know how long I stood. I stood there until Motzei Shabbos, when the Rebbetzin came in with Rabbi Jacobson, etc. But every once in a while, the Rebbe turned around, and the only thing he said was that only those who are in the mikveh should be in this room. Only those who are in the mikveh should be in this room. And the Rebbe looked around, and I say he looked at certain people. I think he pointed to people. He did. Look at people and say, "Bist du gewesen in der mikveh? Bist du gewesen in der mikveh? Bist du gewesen in der mikveh?" And my heart was as the Rebbe's went over me. He did not ask me, and he asked whether he chose out these people who did it at random. I don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody will ever know. But he did just look around and just say, "Hey, did you go to mikveh? Did you go to mikveh? Did you go to mikveh?" Nobody could be it. That's all we heard him say. Then the Rebbetzin came, Rebbetzin Chaim Mushka came, and the Jacobson that came, and They were talking about where it's going to be at night, and the Rebbe is very, very insistent who's going to stay there, who's going to be there, who's going to stay the whole time. And evidently at that time, for what I heard or overheard, it was evident that the Rebbe was not going to be there overnight. You want to make sure someone's going to be there, you're going to watch, he's going to make sure nobody takes anything, whatever it is. And I think he said that. Then there was a long pause, a long wait. We went downstairs and the Rebbe did daven Mariv. Mariv was very interesting. And I don't remember exactly what happened because they were getting ready and they had to get a hearse, etc. But what I do remember is that there was a room downstairs, which is not really part of the hospital. It was like part of it was on the same landing as the hospital, but it was not a hospital room. And we went in there to daven Mariv, and the Rebbe was outside, and the Rebbe told, I thought it was somebody else. Somebody told me it was Rabbi Krinsky. I had thought that I'd overheard him speak to somebody else, but he wanted to see where Mizrach would be. And they opened up a window, but evidently the Rebbe wanted to see where the moon was to be able to see where Mizrach was. I think that was it, but it was a cloudy night. So the Rebbe said to, I thought it was somebody else was Rabbi Krinsky, whoever it was. And this I heard definitely. Definitely, this is the exact words he says. Geh in Spital und frag, wo is East? That's exactly how he said it. Geh in Spital und frag, wo is East? Where is East? We went into the room, and at that time, Shmuel, my friend, my good friend, was saying Kaddish, Gedacht for his mother, Leha Shalem. And the Rebbe came in, and I don't know if they made a statement, but the Rebbe said, he used the words, a minimum tzumtzum. So there were 10 people in the room, 11 people in the room. There were 10 people and the Rebbe. There was no one else in the room. Now, as I remember, and my good friend Shmuel, he davened Farnoma because he was saying Kaddish. He remembers also that there were no Sidurim. But I think I remember, and I didn't check this up, that somebody, I think was Shalom Yisrael, Chadikah brought a siddur and the Rebbe had a siddur. Now, did the Rebbe daven Mariv? I can't say he did it. I don't know. He held the siddur, and the Rebbe stood by the door. And we all davened without siddur. We did not have a siddurim. And again, I think the Rebbe had a small siddur, and someone had brought it after Shabbos. And again, to what extent he davened, I do not know the answer. But I do remember very, very clearly that as soon as after he said Aleinu, the Rebbe said Kaddish, because it was always the minhag there when the Rebbe had to say Kaddish, and there were other people who said Kaddish, the Rebbe would say Kaddish, the Rebbe first, and then the person that said Kaddish would say Kaddish. The Rebbe said Kaddish, I remember that clearly, then Shmuel said Kaddish, and the second the Shmuel finished saying Kaddish, the Rebbe said, he opened up the door and he walked out. He did not stay for the Kaddish Rabbanon. Did not stay for the Kaddish Rabbanon, and he left. And then they were waiting for the hearse to come. And when I went out, another thing I remember might be a small thing. I was standing by the Rebbe, standing outside, waiting for the hearse to come by. And the Rebbe looked up, and there was a deck above. He was standing under a cover. And the Rebbe turned around. He said, I don't know if he said to anybody. I think he just said to whoever it was, as das is anoyel, or I think he said das is marhil, that this is a anoyel. Obviously, the kohenim should not come under that path because the hearse went underneath that, and that's what I remember. That, my friends, is what I remember from the day, and of course, it's a day that lives in our minds, and it lives in our minds. And it's a very important day to us. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit and tell you why I think it is such an important date. But before I get to that, I want to go back to the story that I told you at the very beginning. The story where the woman brought the baby to the Rebbe and said, I wanted to be like you. And the Rebbe says, you have to be a mother like my mother. Where the Rebbe gave his mother only the credit, but whatever he is, his mother. And I'm thinking of another story, which I want, a story, it's not a story of the Rebbe, but something that comes to my mind because I have a story that I tell every Chof Ov. Every Chof Ov. This one I'm going to tell you, I tell the story every Chof Ov. And Chof Ov, of course, as we know, is the outside of the Rebbe's father, the great tzaddik, Leivik, etc. And there was one year, the Rebbe used to farbring on Chof Ov, and one particular year, Chof Ov was on a Sunday. Chof Ov was on a Sunday. And I went from Minnesota to New York. There was be a Farbrengen at night. I went for the Farbrengen. And I came into JFK and I rented a car and I was driving to Crown Heights. It was Sunday. And there was a radio program given by my uncle, my wife's uncle, Rabbi J.J. Hecht, well known. I don't have to tell you more than his name was J.J., Yaakov Yehuda, Olav Shalom. And he had a program every Sunday morning, and he spoke on WVD, and I listened to his program. So as I was driving, he said that today is 20th day of Vov, it's the outside of the Rebbe's father, and I, by himself, I'm going to be the Farbrengen, and I'm going to translate between each of the sichos, which he did. Each of the sichos, he gave a synopsis of what the Rebbe had spoken. And then he said, obviously, I didn't know the Rebbe's father. I didn't know the Rebbe's father. How would you know the Rebbe's father? But I want to tell you a story. This is what he said. I'm saying what he said. I want to tell you a story about my father. His father, he was Yaakov Yehuda, ben Rabbi Yeshua. And all the Salanga Gut to Yoren, the Shias of today, Salanga Gut to Yoren, and Vechom and Shalom Tevis are named after Yeshua Hecht, the father of the Hecht brothers. It says, my father, one time, this is what he said, my father, one time went to see a doctor. And the doctor examined it, whatever it was, and as he went out, the way it was done in terms of the billing, as he would walk out, the receptionist would give the patient the bill, and I suppose the patient would mail it whenever it was later on. So as Mr. Yeshua Hecht, as he walked out from the doctor's office, walked past the receptionist handed him the bill, and he moved on, he went out. A few minutes later, and J.J. Hecht is telling this story, J.J. Hecht says, my father came running back into the doctor's office, and he comes in, and he's upset. He said, there's a mistake on this bill. Obviously, but he thought they'd charge him too much. The receptionist says, what's the problem on the bill? So it says on this bill that I get a clergy discount. I don't get a clergy discount. I'm not a rabbi. Why do you give me a clergy discount? That's what they call it in English, being very, very honest. He was. And the receptionist says, I'll tell you the truth. I don't make out the bills. The doctor makes out the bills. Let's call the doctor. So they call the doctor. And Mr. Yeshua Hecht looks at the doctor and says, I got a bill. It says on the clergy, I'm not a clergy. I'm not in the clergy. I don't deserve the credit. I don't deserve the discount. So the doctor said, Mr. Hecht, I want to tell you something. I know that you have 6 sons and all of them are rabbis. If you're the father of 6 rabbis, then by me, you're a very, very big rabbi, and I respect you very much. For me, you're clergy. So I think of this story now. I'm thinking of the Rebbe Sinchana, and I'm thinking of the story I told you before, and I think to myself, as I think, that even if, if we did not know anything about Rebbe Sinchana, we didn't know any story about Rebbe Sinchana. And the stories we know, we heard from the Rebbe. The Rebbe told us beautiful story about Rebbe Sinchana. We did not know. Just the very fact that she was Aim HaMelech. She was the Aim HaMelech. She was the mother of the king. She was the one who had this chus min hashamayim, that she should give birth to a tzaddik, Gadol Hadoya, tzaddik Hadoya, Nosi Hadoya. For that alone, if we knew nothing about her, we would have to give tremendous derech eretz and speak about her and talk about her and farbring on the day, etc., etc., etc. How much more in Kal V'chomer that we do know? We know in Yonim that the Rebbe spoke about her, the Rebbe taught about her, and as we know, the Rebbe did not, we know this very well. Rebbe didn't come to the farbring and say, okay, I'm going to tell you stories about my mother and my father. Rebbe didn't do that. The Rebbe told a few items which we got from the Rebbe, and the Rebbe pointed out by each one he spoke about his father and about his mother, told us the small things. So let me choose just one item, just one item that the Rebbe spoke about. And I remember when the Rebbe spoke about this, I don't remember exactly what the Rebbe said, what words he used, I don't remember, but he spoke about the fact when they brought out the manuscripts from the Rebbe's father, and the Rebbe spoke about all of this is because of his mother. Because when they were far away in Almatah, wherever they were, there was nothing there, but his mother, she made ink. And she made ink for her husband to write. And I remember, and I don't know what words the Rebbe used, I think he used the ink, which she made ink. And the Rebbe says, I don't know what word he used, Yiddish balabosta. I remember the Rebbe was smiling when he was telling this at Farbrengen. That was her ink. That was my Siyodel. That's what she did. You can imagine what kind of ink it was. I mean, obviously, far from any ink that you could buy in the store. But she did it. She was able. She gave her husband to write, and he wrote one word here, one word there, and whatever it is. We have sworn from that. And the Rebbe spoke on that many times. So I'm thinking to myself, if somebody would come to me and say, Asher Zeilingold, could you make some ink, please? I wouldn't begin from grass yet. I couldn't begin to know how to make ink from grass. And how did she know? She didn't go to school to do it. There was nobody there in Almatah who taught her how to make ink from grass. But there were two things, a couple of items. There's one thing, there was perseverance. She knew she had to do this. And when you know you have to do it, to her, that became a whole life. Looking after her husband and making sure that he could write Divrei Torah. How she made ink, I don't know. I can't imagine how she made ink. I remember one time at Farbrengen, the Rebbe told a story. And I remember it was Chavdala Teves, and a special 150th year of the Alter Rebbe from the Alter Rebbe. And the Rebbe at that time he made a magbis at the Farbrengen, and he told a story. He says that one time everybody should give money. And the Rebbe said that one time the Baal Shem Tov went out on Motzei Shabbos. He went with his Chavraya. They went out on Motzei Shabbos, and the Baal Shem Tov, for some reason, needed money. And so he said to his Hasidim, he wants money. He needs money. And so the Hasidim, I remember they put their hands in their pockets. And I remember the Rebbe used the words. I mean, it's a sikha which is being recorded. Mitzad Geudel, the discussions they had with the Baal Shem Tov was so great that they put their hands in their pocket Mitzvah Shabbos and took out money from nothing. I remember the Rebbe saying that, and the Rebbetzin, her making ink must have been the same way. She had such a chashuv to do it. She did it. So that's the first thing that we learn. And the second thing we learn is that we not only have to do it, we can do it, but we have to have the Ratzon, and we have to build the Ratzon to be able to do whatever it is that we have to do. Now, if you give me just 15 seconds while I could check on what I want to continue, I'd appreciate it very much. Use the word determination. That she showed us, she taught us, you have to be determined to do something, you could do it. She taught us something else, very, very important, that I can personally learn from what the Rebbe told the story of his mother making ink from grass. She taught us that you've got to use whatever you have. Whatever you have, you've got to make that suffice for what you need to do. Now, sometimes we think to ourselves, and as I say to you, that the Rebbetzin, she had grass, all she had to make ink, grass. Okay, make the ink from the grass. That's all she had nothing else. The only thing that she do, she got used to grass. She mushed it, she took it, she boiled it, cooked it. I don't know what she did, but she got something out of that. So that's all she had. The Rebbe taught us a very, very same lesson, because, and if I go into this, I'm going to talk for a long time, which I want to talk about that, bring out other points. But the Rebbe is always, whatever he had, he worked with that. When the Rebbe became Rebbe, the Rebbe lived with his wife on a fourth floor on New York Avenue. He lived on the fourth floor. And I know I was at that apartment, other reasons, again, which I'm not going to go into now. That's a story for itself, a long story for itself. He lived in a small two-bedroom apartment. And from what I know, the Rebbe never, ever complained. The Rebbe didn't say, look, I'm the Rebbe, I need something better. It so happens that there were great people in Lubavitch. Rabbi Kazanovsky, I think, was the first one who made sure the Rebbe got the house, and they worked on the house. And from what my understanding is, the Rebbe never said, I need to have a house. I got to have a house. He had a two-bedroom apartment. He had for his forum, and he was able to learn, and he did everything. That this is what he had. He had an office in 770 Eastern Parkway, and he was happy with the office in 770 Eastern Parkway because that's where his father-in-law was. And they asked the Rebbe, so it was right near the place where we learned, the Zal, where we learned. And they asked the Rebbe that we hope we would keep the door closed. The Zal, they shouldn't bother. Rebbe said, don't worry about that. The cold terror does not bother me. Had a small office, a little Merkazah. This is what they had. And Lubavitch grew and grew and grew and grew and grew. The Rebbe never asked for more. When the Rebbe, one time, he had Aleph Nissen, he bought the Rebbe a brand new Cadillac. The Rebbe says, I don't want it, I don't want it, I don't want it, I'm not looking for it. Whatever he had. And that's an important point. And we should go, and that is something that we should go into, that we should think of, and we should live with that. Now, I want to go to another point now, and that is, it was mentioned before by my good friend, Rabbi Manis Friedman. I think he was one who mentioned it, that the Rebbe went to visit his mother every day. Now, I want you to know, and I want to talk about this a little bit longer, perhaps we have time later on, or maybe have another opportunity, that as long as we had whatever we had from the Rebbe, when we were younger, when we were in the 770, we took it for granted. That's not a bad thing. We took it for granted. This is the way it is. We took it for granted. The Rebbe went, and Manis mentioned this before, every single day to visit his mother. Every single day to visit his mother. And that was part of our life. We went every single day to visit his mother. And I think to myself, we know the tremendous Mesivas Nefesh, the love the Rebbe showed his mother. We know about it. We've heard about it. That he walked backwards and what he did, and after the issue, lost his son, how Rebbe worked so hard that nobody should tell her about it. She shouldn't find out anything. Not chafishon begum any tzata whatsoever. But to go every day. Now, you and I, we cannot imagine the amount of work the Rebbe had to do. I would think to myself, I mean, we call people up. They had a phone, she had a phone, you had a phone, you call up. Maybe not, but every day. And I'm thinking of this, that the Rebbe, if you want to know how a person can do everything you have to do, everything you have, you got tons and tons of work to do, tons of things to do. And how do you do it? How do you get it done? I once heard somebody say, I remember, I think it was at one of the Shluchim conference. Somebody said that we say there's an old saying that if you have a lot of things to do, you give it to the busiest person. The busiest person will be able to do it. The Rebbe was the busiest person. Now, I remember one time the Rebbe gave a talk and spoke at a Farbrengen, and you probably remember this also. It was on a Yud, it was after Yud, when the Rebbe made a Farbrengen with those going back to Eretz HaKodesh, to Eretz Yisrael, and he spoke, and the people there, they were waiting for their plane. They were waiting for a plane. They had an air-up flight, And they were at the Farbrengen, and the Rebbe kept talking and talking and talking, and people got a little concerned. Are they going to make the plane? It was very evident from the way they, I suppose, the way they're fidgeting, this and this. And the Rebbe saw that, and the Sikha is a well-known Sikha. And the Rebbe told in that Sikha, he was speaking about having power over your own time. And the Rebbe told a story. He saw everybody fidgeting, this and this and this and this. And he told a story that one time he was in Russia and he saw his father-in-law, the Frierdiker Rebbe. He had to go to Moscow and it was a very, very dangerous situation. And the Rebbe says he saw his father-in-law and he was sitting there. In 50 minutes, he had to go to the vokzal. He had to go to take the train to Moscow, I think it was, from to Moscow. And he was sitting there very, very calm. So I understand from the Rebbe, I heard the Sikha a few times. He said to his father, you have to go 50 minutes, you've got to go to Moscow, it's dangerous, etc. How can you be so calm? So his father-in-law had the Frierdiker Rebbe answered him, he learned from the Rashba. And to make a long story short, the Rashba, and the Rebbe spoke about this. The Rashba, he was a doctor, and he had shiurim, and he wrote sforim, and he had this and everything, and every day he took a walk for a half hour, and he got everything done. And I heard that Sikha, and I thought to myself, if the Frierdiker Rebbe wanted to mention somebody who had tons and tons and tons of work, but and was able to do everything, why did he mention the Rashba? Because he spoke about the Shemach Tzedek. He spoke about his own father, the Rashba. Why mention Rashba? And I think what it was because the Rebbe made a point of saying the Rashba went for a walk every day. He needed to have that, his exercise, and he went for a walk. I think he said a half hour, maybe it wasn't a half hour. In other words, there was something in his life, which is every day, which, I mean, if a person has work to do, you're not going to go for a walk, which you could put on the side and you could do it another way. I'm thinking in my mind that when the Rebbe went to see his mother every day, that if he had to, he put on the side. But that was such an important thing to him. And obviously the Rebbe had letters, and I wanted to tell you what the Rebbe had, the amount of work the Rebbe had. You know, I know, we all know the tremendous amount of work he had. But this was part of his day, to go to his, not to talk, only to talk to his mother, not to come and say, hi, Ma, how are you? Are you feeling good? Good. I'll call you later. I'll call you tomorrow morning. I'll call you again tomorrow. I'll keep calling you. He went and we saw him. We used to see him. There you go. I remember one time I saw him in a crossing. He was walking on Kingston Avenue, and a little kid walks over to the Rebbe and says, hey, mister, can you take me across the street? I remember the Rebbe took him by a hand, and the Rebbe walked about halfway across Kingston Avenue and then let him go. And the Rebbe walked him, and it was every day he used to go. There was a man had a hat shop, and the Rebbe would stop there and knock on the window sometimes. That was how familiar we were. Anyways, I think my time might be up already. Is my time up yet? Let me see where we're up to.
Rabbi Asher.
Yeah.
I was hoping you would tell the story of the Rebbe coming to the Rebbitzin, and she was sitting outside, and they had that interesting.
I want to tell you something. What is it before you go any further? That's exactly what I was going to say next. Okay, so don't say one more word, please.
Not a word.
Not a word. Okay, that's just okay. I would think to myself, I think so many people know the story, but I have that. Actually, I have that on my program a little further up, but I'll do it right now. Now, I've had this suchus. I have a very, very great suchus. Many times in my life, I came to the Chabavich in Tovshin Yudches, went to Montreal, and I was in Montreal for a year and a half. And then I came to Tovshin Yudches, Rebbe told me, you got to move over to 770, I came to 770, and in Chavor, I went on Shlichus. But Baruch Hashem, I lived through very, very good years. And Baruch Hashem, there are many times when I had the big zechus that I was simply, as he put it, in the right place at the right time. Now, there was one time, and I don't know when it was. Didn't keep calendars, but I don't remember exactly when it was. That the Rebbe came back went to the oil. He came back something. He came back to the oil. He came back in the. I think it was in the early afternoon. Maybe later in the afternoon. It probably was later in the afternoon. And he davened mincha in 770. And then Yuru took him to visit his mother. Rebbe, he took him. For some reason or other, and I don't remember why, I went over there to Pleasant Street, corner of Kingston Avenue. And I was there, and I saw the Rebbe Tzidchan was sitting outside, and all the Farbrengen people, Farbrengen children were all standing there near there and talking to her, and she was playing with it, whatever it was. And then suddenly, Rabbi Krinsky's car came. Rabbi Krinsky's car came, and as the car pulled up, and the Rebbe got out of the car. Now the Rebbe had gone to the oil that day. It was not a regular day when the Rebbe had gone to the oil. And also, Rabbi Krinsky usually during the week he didn't drive the Rebbe. In the morning, the Rebbe would walk from his home in Pleasant Street, walk to 770, and he'd walk up the street. And many times we used to eat on Eastern Parkway, in a house, I think 646, 676, between Brooklyn and New York. And he would walk up. And I remember one time we used to stand, if the Rebbe would come up, and I'm walking now, stand on the side. And I'm just going off this to talk about another thing, the little things which we remember after many years. And the Rebbe was walking up, and I stood on the side, and the Rebbe walked past me about 10 feet away. And as he walked past me, he looked at me, and he shook his lapel. In other words, how come you don't have a coat on you? And I have to tell you the truth. I went back to some times. The Rebbe, when I was coming, the Rebbe didn't tell me to get a coat. He shook his lapel. The Rebbe noticed that Bach is going, and I don't think it's a particularly cold day, but how the care he had for everybody. But the Rebbe walked, and Rabbi Krinsky did not necessarily drive him only on special days or when he went to the oil. You'll see you'll understand in a minute or so why I'm telling you this. The Rebbe got out of the car and he's walking towards his mother who was sitting there. And then I can't tell you exactly what the Rebbe said, but I heard what the Rebbe said. She said it very clear and distinctly. She said, Gei ahem. I do remember, maybe I told him to myself that she called him by his first name and said, Gei ahem, just like that. From what I remember, the Rebbe looked at her and he didn't say a word. He was standing a little far away from her. But he looked at her, obviously. I think he said, and I don't want to put words in the Rebbe's mouth. I think he said, Favos, well, why should I go home? Why should I go home? He asked his mother the question, why are you sending me home? And his mother said to him, du hast heute noch nicht gegessen. That I heard her say clearly. You didn't eat anything today. So the Rebbe said to his mother, and again, he's standing a little far away from his mother, how do you know? She said, well, no. He said, why do you say I didn't eat today? Why do you say that? Why are you saying that? And she said, well, du bist heimgegangen auf an oil. I think she used the word oil. Du bist heimgegangen auf an oil. Heimgegangen auf an oil. So then he said to his mother, how do you know? Then Rebbe Tzidchan looks up. And she points her finger to Rabbi Krinsky and said, well, Krinsky is da. Krinsky is da means that Krinsky brought you. And the only time the Rebbe went in a car was when Krinsky was when Rabbi Krinsky drove him. Otherwise, he would be walking. Krinsky is a proof that she knows that the day he went to the oil, he went to the oil. The rabbits and the mother knew he didn't eat, so she says to him, "Go home and eat something right now." And everybody started laughing because the way she said it, Krinsky is on, she was laughing, and the Rebbe started to laugh, and Rabbi Krinsky was laughing, and I was laughing, and all the kids laughed, everybody was laughing. It was a beautiful, beautiful scene. And the Rebbe Tzidchan, she sounded like a proud mother. I thought to myself at that moment, she's like saying to her son, "You can't fool your mother. I know what you're doing." And so it was a beautiful sight and a beautiful place to be. To be there. But I want to see what time it is.
That was the bench that my father put out there for her.
Oh, yeah?
That's how this whole thing started, with that story.
Really? Because I saw the bench was right in front of the building.
On the grass, yeah.
I went to, can I get a drink, please? Thank you. I did not meet the Rebbetzin too many times in my life, but I'll tell you two stories that did happen. You may know the story, but I think now's a good time to talk about these stories. Two times, actually, within 6 months of Vov Tishrei. And the first time I had met her before, whatever, and that was when Chasana, our wedding was on Hey Nisan, 5th day of Nisan. Now, for some reason, Rabbi David Raskin, Oliver Sholem, was very good to me and kind to me. He used to invite me. I don't know what Zechus was, maybe because I went to places to speak, Fitzach, which helped me, which was very good. He liked it, was very happy with that. The Rebbe was very happy with that. But that's not a discussion for now. But he told me, this was before our chasana, I don't know, 2 weeks before, whatever. He says, you and your Kala are invited to visit with the Rebbe Chana, and he told me a date on Wednesday. I think it was a Wednesday, certain date. You're invited to go visit the Rebbe Chana, and obviously we're very, very happy and joyful. Now, and it meant a lot to us, of course. Now, the day before that, it was on a Wednesday. I'm going to meet her, and we're going to go to my Kala on Wednesday night, on a Wednesday night. The day before that, Tuesday, I am walking with Shmuel. Shmuel was married about a year before me. He was married in Tammuz, Tavshin Chav Gimel. I was married in Heinis and Tavshin Chav Dalet. So I'm walking with Shmuel. We're walking up Kingston Avenue towards over Union Street, around where Raskin's Fish Market is. If that's where it is, I think that's where it is. And we see coming towards us, very unique, is on the right side of the Rebbe. So the Rebbe Chana is coming towards us. And they're walking there. And she knew Shmuel because Shmuel's father-in-law, Zal Slangion, would go to the house and he had been there many times. Anyways, we met up with each other and she stopped and we stopped. And she said a few, how are you, what's happening, a few words, how's everything? And then she said to me, I said to her, I don't remember, I said to her, I'm going to see you, B'ez Hashem, tomorrow night. Tomorrow night I'm coming up with my college. She knew who I was. And I said to her, B'ez Hashem, I'll see you tomorrow night. So then, what she said to me then was very, very surprising. She turned to Shmuel and she said to him, Du wirst echt darauf kommen mit deinem Freu. So Shmuel said, where do I come into the picture? Why am I invited? Asher is invited with his caller. And he looked at her and he said, why do I come there? So she said to him with a smile, and if I remember correctly, the exact words she said. She says, Min hat mir gesagt, als wo eine von euch geht allemal der zweite Eichet. Where one of you goes, you're always together. One goes. And so he said, so she said, you have to come up. And so he agreed. Obviously. Now, I heard her very carefully. Now, how did the Rebbetzin know, or who was it who told the Rebbetzin that the Rebbetzin said to a certain person, Asher Zeilingold and his colleague Simahech are going to come to visit me on Wednesday night? Who in the world would say, oh, you've got to invite Shmuel also with his wife? I can think of only one person. I don't know if everybody's going to say it to Rebbe. She was telling her son. That's what I think. I can't anyway verify it, but that's what it sounds to me. That he said to her. I can't think of anybody else who would have said it. Now, Shmuel argues with me on one of the points. He says, the reason why I came, he did come, not a question about it, is I got a phone call. And I say to him, Shmuel, it could be both. It could be she said that when I said, he said it, and you were there. And it could be they called you up to make it official that is what should happen. And that is indeed what it was. He went up the next night. We were both there. I was there with my color, and he was there with his wife, Hindi. And we went there, and she talked to us, spoke to us. as she did to every two of the teach Chassan and Kala who came, and certain ones did. That was the first time that not I spoke to her, but I did speak to her. But actually, I met with her another time, and Rabbi Rassin came over to me. David came over to me, and this was in Chaf before Chaf of. Now, I did not know this, but the Rebbe used to have a Farbrengen in a house, I think before Yudalef Nissen. I know Shmuel was there one time, and before Chafov, before Chafov, maybe on Chafov, maybe on the day of Chafov. No, whatever it was because the Rebbe would have Farbrengen then. Maybe it was the night before, whenever it was, on Chafov, she would have a Farbrengen in the house, in her apartment, and I was invited. And I don't remember too much that happened. I really don't. And I'll tell you, the reason I didn't remember it, because we took it for granted. What after this, is we're going to have the same thing next year, the year after, year after, year after, year after. We're going to have many more times to talk about this, to hear about it. But I remember that she told a story. This was at the end of the summer, and she said that somebody had told her that in 770 there's a big notice on the inside the wall of 770, and saying that all of those who went to the camp of Telz, the Telz had a camp, and the Telz, the bus from the yeshiva of Telz would pick up everybody outside 770 on this and this date. And she was saying, Telz is going to ride the 770, and they're going to come. She was laughing at obviously in where she was in Katislav, and there was a big the Telz wouldn't come to Lubavitch, but whatever it was, she says no, and this is what happened. And also I remember the Zalman Duchman Rabbi Shalom was sitting there and was making her laugh by saying to her, and this made her laugh, that Ashemish, Yoshev. So Zalman is saying, they say Chata and Yoshev. He says, there was a Nishkan Lubavitch, whatever he is, he puts a dagesh on Chata. But Lubavitch says, Chata, Yoshev. We put the emphasis on the Yoshev, and the Cheta is immediately put away, and everything is Shuvah. Anyways, I think my time's coming up, and I want to say something. I want to tell you something, and that is, I actually have a lot more to speak to you about, but whatever. I want to tell you that many years ago, I know certain American songs, and there was a song which I remember, and it was a song sung, I think in 1990, I think it was, about a tavern. There was a tavern. And the tavern was a very special place. People used to come there, they used to sing, and they used to dance, they used to enjoy themselves. And they didn't have the tavern any longer. Just go check something over here. Hang on a second, please.
You have voicemail. Please begin talking after the tone.
It's not you, it's somebody else.
People come to the tavern.
To the operator.
People come to the tavern.
What is it?
Okay, they were singing and dancing, and then the tavern became Ice Tavern. And they were thinking back about what they had lost. And there's a line in that song that goes like this. Those were the days, my friend, we thought they would never end. Those were the days, my friend, we thought they'd never end. And I have to tell you, these words are exactly about how we felt. Now, the passing of the Rebbetzin Chana, was, from my perspective, the first time that things became different in 770. From Tovshin Yud, I mean, there's this and this, but the first major, later on, the Lamed Ches, very different. It was in stages. The first time, we could not imagine, we couldn't of anything, of having about without the Rebbe going to see his mother every day. When the Rebbe's not going to see his mother, it's unbelievable. When the Rebbe, when the Rebbe Tzidchana was nifter, I remember on Sukkot, people sitting around in the Sukkot saying, people didn't know the Rebbe never traveled anywhere. We thought maybe the Rebbe's not traveling because of his mother. Oh, after Sukkot, pack your suitcase, the Rebbe's going to start traveling. We were completely perplexed. And you asked me, I've been asked, how did Chassidim take to that? And it was a very strong feeling of obviously loss, because the Rebbe had lost his mother. And I remember one of the days when I was at Shiva with and the Rebbe, it was only 2 days I was Shiva, 2.5 days. And I was there with my father-in-law. And as we walked out, my father-in-law nudged me and says, look at the Rebbe. And Rebbe had his head down, and he looked like the loneliest man on earth, the loneliest man in earth. He was looking down, and you could see on his face the pain that he had, that he'd lost his mother, what it meant to him. And we knew this was going to be different. And we couldn't imagine what is going to happen. We know everything. You had a question. I went to the dentist, and the dentist told me, you got to pull my tooth. I came back, I settled to the Rebbe. Dear Rebbe, the dentist told me I got to pull my tooth. What should I do? Go to another dentist, ask him, and then tell me what he said. Why didn't I ask my mother, my father? I don't remember why. I don't know. I should have asked my mother. My mother told me what to do. I didn't. I wrote to the Rebbe. And people did. Everybody did. They said, they want to make a bar mitzvah. Should I make a bar mitzvah in the house, or should I go to this? Rebbe answered everybody. And that's what we had. And as these things diminished, I don't like to say diminish, but became less because of situations that were real situations in our life. The amount of people, et cetera, the burden of the Rebbe, et cetera. I know when I was when I came to 770, I saw somebody, I think it was Rabbi Go, taking in the Rebbe's mail to the Rebbe. Taking his mail. He got mail every day. He got mail. So he took in a second mail. But when you take a mail and you give it to somebody, then obviously you have on top, you have the address to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, this and this. He gave it to the Rebbe, switched around. That when the Rebbe got put in front of him, he had the back side, he didn't have the front side. Why? Because the Rebbe opened every single piece of mail he opened up himself. Every single piece of mail, every piece of mail. He asked the Rebbe, a heavy piece of mail you got to open up. Why don't you take a cutter? I don't want a cutter. Don't bring me a cutter. He showed the Rebbe a picture of the Rebbe with a cutter. My shver could do it. And then everything the Rebbe, there was a box on the table, when you walked into the 770, on the right side there, you have the Merkaz room. In that Merkaz room, there's a big desk. That was Rabbi Chadakov's desk. Rabbi Chadakov moved out of there, and then I went to the back room, and he stood at that desk. On that desk, there was a tray, a double tray, and it used to be just people would put the sedlach in the corner of the desk pad. There's a desk tray, and people would put out. People could walk in day and night. Nobody asked them, who are you? Where'd you come from? What are you writing with the Rebbe for? Nobody asked the question. When I came to the Lubavitcher the first time in Tovshin Tezayin, I walked in there. I saw the Rebbe walk from his room to there. He didn't want to bother anyway to bring in his mail. He took it in himself. And then in the Torah, I think it was Rebbe read every single thing himself. He read not only his own mail, he read the mail from Tzach, he read everybody, and he checked. I checked everything. I wrote articles for a newspaper for American Jewish World. I was sent to the Rebbe. Rebbe be Magia. It was Magia. There were many things, and there came a time when that was over. When I went to Russia with my wife, went to Russia, I wrote to the Rebbe. This was in Toshemem, Malach Base, I think it was. I wrote to the Rebbe that B'yom Sheni Habalei Torah about I'm going to Russia, and I wrote a whole big letter. When I came to 770, they were going to say to me, "Oh, you got an answer from the Rebbe." And he gave me the letter in the envelope that I had into the Rebbe, and on the envelope was written in Nebel Gorner's handwriting, Noisea Lisham B'yom Beis Habal. About, in other words, we were going to read the letter, which I don't mind at all, not a problem. But he read the letter, gave a synopsis to the Rebbe because it was impossible. So so something passed on. But the very beginning of it, the first time, was the Rebbe's Nechana. And Baruch Hashem, we have a lot to learn from her, and we can learn from her, we will learn from her, and we should be, Rebbe Hashem, we should give, that we should all be, as Rebbe would say, with the Rebbe, and Rebbe Yemei Mekariv Mamish.